Imagine holding in your hand a coin that most people would dismiss as nothing more than ordinary pocket change. A coin that seemed so simple, so common, so unremarkable that it might pass unnoticed in daily transactions at a store or get lost in the depths of a coin jar at home. But imagine if that very coin, a 1974 $quarter minted in the United States, turned out to be not worth 25 cents, but a staggering $14 million, a mind-bending value that makes it one of the most astonishing and talked about treasures in numismatic history, and the story of how a small, everyday coin could rise to become one of the most valuable and legendary rarities ever discovered is a journey that blends history, economics, minting practices, collector obsession, and the power of human error all coming together to create a coin that is now considered priceless to those who understand its significance. Because the 1970s was a period of intense change and experimentation at the U.S. Mint, a time when the rising costs of metals like copper and nickel forced officials to explore alternative compositions for coins, and this experimentation led to the production of trial strikes and off-metal pieces that were never supposed to circulate. Yet somehow some of these coins did make their way into the public's hands, and among these were examples of the 1974 quarter struck on aluminum planchets, a composition never intended for circulation, and when coupled with dramatic errors, like doubled dies, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and even Nick's composition strikes, the result was a group of quarters unlike anything the public had ever seen before, and it is precisely these quirks that transformed the 1974 quarter from common change into a multi-million-dollar rarity, because in numismatics rarity equals value, and condition adds fuel to the fire, and demand among collectors with deep pockets pushes that value into the stratosphere. And when an example of the 1974 quarter embodying these rare traits surfaced in pristine condition, it sent shockwaves across the coin collecting community by achieving a valuation of $14 million, setting a record that defied belief and instantly cemented the coin's place in history as one of the most extraordinary numismatic finds ever. And what makes this tale even more electrifying is the possibility that more undiscovered treasures from the same year could still be hiding in collections, tucked away in drawers, or sitting unnoticed in change jars, because the mint struck billions of coins in the 1970s, and with so many experiments, tests, and errors occurring during production, it is entirely possible that yet more of these multi-million-dollar rarities remain to be found, waiting for someone with a sharp eye and a little luck to notice. And think about how it must feel to casually pick up a 1974 quarter, feel the weight slightly off, notice the color looks different, or see strange doubling in the lettering or date, and then realize you could be holding one of the rarest coins in the world, worth not hundreds, not thousands, but millions upon millions of dollars. And that is the magic of coin collecting, where the extraordinary is often hiding in plain sight. And history has shown us time and again that ordinary people have stumbled upon coins of unimaginable value simply because they took the time to look closely, and this is why the story of the 1974 quarter captivates not only experts, but also everyday people who dream of making a life-changing discovery, because beyond its metal and minting, the coin represents the unexpected potential of small details to alter the course of history. And let us dive even deeper into the specifics, because the aluminum 1974 quarters are among the most famous, struck as test pieces to see if a cheaper, lighter metal could replace the costly copper-nickel composition, but these were never supposed to leave the mint, yet some did, and the legal battles surrounding them only added to their mystery and value, making any confirmed example virtually priceless, while at the same time, the double die varieties from 1974 showcase dramatic doubling on the date, the lettering, or even Washington's profile, and these varieties, when crisp and visible, can command extraordinary prices at auction. And add to this the possibility of planchet errors, like quarters struck on cent planchets, half-dollar planchets, or foreign coin blanks, and suddenly the world of the 1974 quarter becomes a labyrinth of rare varieties, each with its own story and value, and the crown jewel among them, in pristine mint state, with a provenance and historical intrigue unlike any other, has reached the jaw-dropping valuation of $14 million, because collectors are not simply buying metal, they are buying history, rarity, and the bragging rights of owning one of the rarest coins ever produced by the United States Mint. And beyond the aluminum strikes and double dies, the 1974 quarters are also known for off-center strikes where the design is shifted dramatically, sometimes with large blank areas on the coin, making them instantly eye-catching and highly collectible, and the more dramatic the error, the higher the price. And when such coins appear in top condition, they can climb from thousands to tens of thousands, and in rare cases millions. But the truly unique examples that combine rarity, error, and history in one package are the ones that shatter records, and that is precisely how the 1974 quarter reached the status of $14 million, because in the world of numismatics, rarity plus demand equals astronomical value, and the 1974 quarter has both in spades, and it is not just a collector's item, it is a cultural icon now, appearing in headlines, sparking debates, and fueling the imagination of treasure hunters everywhere who now scour their coins with renewed excitement, hoping to be the next person to uncover a hidden fortune. And think about the countless drawers, jars, and collections around the world that contain coins gathering dust, each one a potential treasure chest waiting to be opened. And this reality drives the thrill of the hunt, because every time someone examines a coin closely, there is the chance of rewriting history, of discovering that the coin in their possession is one of the ultra-rare examples capable of changing their life forever. And that is what makes the 1974 quarter-dollar story so powerful, because it is more than a coin, it is a symbol of possibility, proof that extraordinary things often hide in the most ordinary places, and that fortunes can be discovered by those who dare to look closely. And as the years pass, the legend of the 1974 quarter continues to grow, with every retelling inspiring new collectors, new hunters, and new dreamers, and perhaps even motivating you to check your own change just in case, because lightning can strike twice, and history has a way of repeating itself, and one day another 1974 quarter might surface, and when it does, it could set an even higher record, proving once again that in the world of coins, the line between ordinary and extraordinary is razor thin, and all it takes is a small mistake, a little rarity, and a lot of passion to transform a simple quarter into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. And this is the reason why the 1974 quarter worth $14 million remains one of the most celebrated and sought-after coins in existence, because it is a perfect storm of history, rarity, condition, and demand, a combination so powerful that it created a numismatic legend that will be talked about for generations. And so the next time you hold a quarter in your hand, take a moment to really look at it, study its date, its weight, its details, because you might just be holding a fortune without even realizing it, and that thought alone has driven countless people to take a second look at their coins, to explore the fascinating world of numismatics, and to dream of the day they might stumble upon their own legendary discovery. And as you reflect on this incredible story of a simple coin transformed into a $14 million treasure, remember that this is just one of many tales from the world of rare coins, where history, error, and luck combine to create fortunes. And if you want to continue exploring these amazing stories, discovering the secrets hidden in pocket change, and learning about the treasures that could be sitting right under your nose, then make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay connected, because the next coin that changes history might be waiting for you, and your discovery could be the story the whole world talks about next. Next, 1989 D quarter-dollar USA coin. Today we're going to explore the incredible 1989 D quarter-dollar that has been reported to be worth an astonishing $5 million, a figure that might sound unbelievable at first, But once you understand the background, the unique errors, the production anomalies, the historical context, and the sheer rarity that surrounds this coin, you will see why it has captured the attention of collectors, investors, and enthusiasts around the globe. So let's get into the story and break down everything about why a simple 25-cent piece minted in 1989 with a Denver mint mark could end up being one of the most expensive quarters in history. And as you listen, you may even begin to wonder whether you might have overlooked a similar treasure sitting right in your pocket change or hidden away in an old coin jar, because the possibilities of errors and rare mint mistakes are endless. And history has shown us that sometimes the smallest details on a coin can transform it from pocket change into a life-changing fortune. So let's start by considering the minting process itself, because every coin that passes through the presses of the United States Mint has to go through multiple stages, including the creation of the planchet, the striking with dies, the addition of mint marks, and the final inspection. But when it comes to coins, like the 1989 D quarter that gained fame for having extraordinary mistakes, we realize that flaws in any part of the process could lead to the birth of a numismatic rarity. For example, if the dies used to strike the coin were misaligned even slightly, it could result in an off-center strike that makes the design appear shifted or incomplete. And if the planchet itself had imperfections such as cracks, laminations, or clipped edges, then those defects would carry over onto the final coin, creating distinctive and highly collectible errors. In the case of the 1989 D quarter, one of the reasons collectors prize certain examples so highly is because of the dramatic double striking that has been observed on some pieces, with the coin being struck twice by the dies in such a way that elements of Washington's portrait on the obverse and the eagle design on the reverse appear doubled, misaligned, or even overlapping, and this kind of error is extremely rare, especially when it occurs so prominently that it is visible to the naked eye. Another aspect that makes certain 1989 D quarters valuable is the possibility of mint mark anomalies, because during this time period the mint marks were still being punched into the dies manually, which meant that variations in placement, size, depth, or even the appearance of repunched mint marks could occur. And when collectors identify such anomalies, especially if they are dramatic or unusual, they often become highly desirable. Now, when we think about what could possibly push the value of a quarter all the way up to the staggering level of $5 million, we have to imagine a perfect storm of factors, not just a single error, but a combination of rarity, visibility, and demand. For example, a coin might be struck on the wrong planchet entirely, such as being struck on a copper set planchet or even a foreign coin blank, which would drastically alter its weight, color, and composition, and examples of wrong planchet errors have sold at auction for huge amounts of money in the past. So imagine if a 1989 D quarter was discovered struck on an unusual metal, or with a unique off-metal composition, and combined with a visible strike error, suddenly you have a one-of-a-kind piece that collectors with deep pockets would battle over in order to own, and that kind of competitive bidding is what drives prices to the millions. Furthermore, we must not underestimate the role of provenance and story, because in the coin world the history of a specific specimen, who discovered it, how it was preserved, and where it was sold can add tremendous value, just like we've seen with legendary coins like the 1913 Liberty nickel or the 1804 Drake bust dollar, and in the case of the 1989 D quarter, when a dramatic error coin is tied to a high-profile auction, covered in numismatic publications, and certified by top grading companies like PCGS or NGC as genuine and unique, the value can skyrocket beyond anything a casual collector might expect. Let's also not forget the psychological element, because collectors and investors often place immense value on owning something no one else can, and if there is only one known example of a dramatic 1989 D quarter error, then the simple law of supply and demand ensures that the price can rise to astonishing levels. Now, to understand why errors occur, it's important to know that the mint in 1989 was still producing hundreds of millions of quarters, and even with advanced machinery, the sheer scale of production meant that mistakes inevitably slipped through, especially when the machinery wore down or was improperly adjusted, and the Denver Mint, represented by the D Mint mark, was one of the busiest facilities at the time, which increased the chances of rare anomalies being struck. Some 1989 D quarters are reported to have broad strikes where the coin was struck without a collar, causing the design to spread out beyond the normal diameter and creating a strikingly unusual appearance. Others may show dramatic die cracks or cuds, where parts of the die broke away and left raised, irregular shapes on the coin surface, and still others might display missing details due to grease-filled dies where the design failed to fully transfer. Each of these errors by itself can make a coin worth far more than face value, but when combined, or when they occur in especially dramatic fashion, they can elevate a coin into the realm of legend, and it's these extraordinary examples that command jaw-dropping prices at auction. Now when we think of the $5 million figure attached to a 1989 D quarter, we should also consider the role of media and hype, because when stories about ultra-rare coins go viral, more collectors and even non-collectors become aware of them, and this drives demand even further, leading to high-stakes bidding wars where wealthy individuals are willing to pay almost any price to secure a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And this phenomenon has been seen time and again, whether it's with error coins, rare dates, or even modern minting oddities. So the 1989 D quarter stands as a perfect example of how an everyday object, something you might overlook without a second thought, can transform into a multi-million-dollar prize simply because of the mysteries of the minting process, the passion of collectors, and the thrill of owning the unattainable. Imagine the excitement of someone discovering such a coin in circulation, perhaps tucked away in a change jar for decades before being recognized for what it truly is. That moment of realization would be life-changing, and stories like these are what keep the world of coin collecting alive and exciting, fueling the hope that maybe, just maybe, you could be the one to stumble upon the next multi-million-dollar treasure. And that's why it's always worth examining your change carefully, looking for oddities, errors, and details that don't quite match what they should, because you never know what you might find. And while most 1989 D quarters are worth only face value, it is that one extraordinary example, that one coin with the perfect blend of rarity, error, and story that has captured headlines and reached the astonishing valuation of $5 million. And as we reflect on this, we realize that coin collecting is not just about metal and mint marks, but about history, chance, discovery, and dreams. So as we close this incredible journey into the story of the 1989 D quarter dollar, remember that treasures can be found in the most unexpected places. And the next legendary coin might already be sitting in your pocket right now, waiting for you to recognize it. Next, 1973 quarter dollar USA coin. Today, we are focusing on one such coin that has stunned collectors and investors alike, the 1973 quarter dollar, which under normal circumstances is simply a Washington quarter with a face value of 25 cents, but in some extraordinary cases due to rare mistakes and errors, it has reached a jaw-dropping value of $3 million at auctions and in the numismatic marketplace, making it one of the most exciting modern rarities ever known. And as we take this deep dive, we will explore why this coin can be worth such an astonishing amount of money, what kinds of minting errors and unusual possibilities make it so valuable, and how collectors worldwide are captivated by such finds. Because the truth is that the 1973 quarter itself is not scarce in ordinary form. Millions were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints with the familiar portrait of George Washington on the obverse designed by John Flanagan, and the heraldic eagle reverse used throughout that period. But when a mistake occurs at the mint, something that should have been a simple, routine production coin can suddenly become a one-of-a-kind masterpiece of rarity. And that is where the fascination begins, because error coins are born not from design, but from deviation from the intended process, and the more dramatic and unusual the deviation, the higher the value. So let us break down the potential errors that could elevate a 1973 quarter to the realm of millions, starting with off-metal planchet errors, which are among the most valuable mistakes in coin collecting, since quarters were struck on copper-nickel-clad planchets after 1965, but sometimes errors occur where the wrong blank is fed into the press. Imagine a 1973 quarter struck on a silver planchet left over from earlier times, or even more extraordinary on a planchet meant for another denomination such as a nickel, dime, half dollar, or even a foreign coin. These wrong planchet errors are instantly noticeable because of the difference in weight, size, or color of the coin, and when authenticated, they often command staggering sums. Now suppose a 1973 quarter was struck on a pure silver planchet or even a transitional blank that should not have existed in circulation by that year. That alone would make it an extreme rarity capable of fetching hundreds of thousands, if not millions, depending on the condition. Then we have double die errors where the die used to strike the coin received more than one impression from the hub at slightly different angles, causing parts of the design to appear doubled, such as Washington's I, the motto, "In God We Trust," or the date, 1973, itself, and dramatic doubling that can be seen with the naked eye is particularly sought after by collectors who value not only the rarity but also the visibility of the mistake, because subtle errors can be overlooked but bold doubling becomes a conversation piece and instantly recognizable. Now combine that with the possibility of an off-center strike where the coin blank was not properly seated in the press and part of the design is missing, sometimes leaving a blank crescent-shaped portion on the coin. And when an off-center strike still preserves a clear date and mint mark, it is exponentially more desirable and could raise the coin's value tremendously. Consider also broad strike errors where the collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking is absent, allowing the metal to spread out wider than normal, creating an oddly shaped oversized coin that is immediately identifiable as an error. While broad strikes are not usually worth millions alone, when combined with other errors they can contribute to a coin's legendary status. Another spectacular possibility is a double strike or multiple strike error where the coin is struck more than once, sometimes partially overlapping the design or creating ghostly shifted images of Washington's portrait or the eagle on the reverse. And such dramatic visual errors are highly prized because they represent a moment when the mint machinery malfunctioned in a way that produced a truly unique piece. Now let us think about transitional errors which occur when a coin is struck using a composition or design from the wrong period. And although by 1973 quarters were all clad, if a coin was somehow struck on an older silver planchet or a leftover blank from 1964, such a transitional error would be extraordinarily rare and instantly worth a fortune, weighing differently than normal clad quarters and easily identifiable when weighed or tested. Such coins capture the imagination of collectors because they represent a bridge between two different minting eras. Yet another possibility is a proof coin accidentally struck for circulation or with special mirrored dies used for proof sets, creating a circulation strike with proof-like qualities that can drastically increase desirability. And then we cannot forget about mintmark errors, like repunched mintmarks where the D or S mintmark is punched into the die more than once at slightly different positions, creating a doubling effect. Though minor compared to some other errors, dramatic examples of repunched mintmarks still attract attention and can be quite valuable. Then there are die cracks, cuts, and die breaks where parts of the die itself failed during striking, leaving raised metal lines or blobs on the coin. And while minor die cracks are common and usually not highly valuable, large cuts, especially covering significant portions of the design, can transform a coin into a major rarity, especially if located near the date or mint mark. Now the real question is, how could all of these factors add up to a valuation as high as $3 million for a 1973 quarter? And the answer lies in rarity, condition, and collector demand, because not every error coin is worth such astronomical sums. But when a coin combines multiple rare factors, it becomes a once-in-a-generation discovery. Imagine a 1973 quarter that is not only struck on the wrong planchet, such as a silver or foreign blank, but also features dramatic doubling on the obverse, an off-center strike still showing the date, and preserved in pristine mint state condition with blazing luster and virtually no contact marks. Once authenticated and graded by leading services like PCGS or NGC at MS67 or higher. Such a coin could easily ignite a bidding war among wealthy collectors, pushing the price into the millions. Especially if it was one of a kind and publicized as a legendary rarity. Add to this the factor of provenance. If the coin was once owned by a famous collector, displayed in museums, or written about in major numismatic journals, its story becomes part of its value, because collectors do not just buy metal, they buy history, stories, and the prestige of owning something no one else has. And this is why multi-million-dollar rarities exist even among coins as common as the quarter, because out of billions struck, only a handful or sometimes just one coin might display such extraordinary errors, creating demand that far outweighs supply. And in the auction world, when two or more wealthy collectors compete to own something unique, the sky is the limit for price. Beyond the financial side, there is the psychological thrill of discovery, because the idea that an ordinary-looking coin in circulation might actually be worth $3 million inspires people to search their change, check their old jars of coins, and pay more attention to details they might have ignored before. And countless stories exist of people finding valuable errors unexpectedly, which fuels the legend even further. So when we consider the 1973 quarter dollar and its potential $3 million value, we are really looking at the perfect storm of numismatic rarity, where minting mistakes intersect with collector demand, historical intrigue, and the human love of treasure hunting. And while the vast majority of 1,973 quarters are only worth their face value, the possibility that a tiny number exists with dramatic errors keeps the dream alive for collectors everywhere, because coins are more than just money. They are artifacts of history, tiny works of art, and sometimes keys to unimaginable fortune. And the 1973 quarter that achieved $3 million proves that even the most ordinary objects can become extraordinary when fate, error, and rarity align in just the right way, making it not just a piece of metal but a story of luck, history, and immense value that will continue to inspire and captivate coin enthusiasts for generations to come. Next, 1995 P quarter dollar USA coin. In this incredible journey, we are going to talk about a specific coin that has shocked both experts and casual collectors alike, a coin that is part of the everyday currency of the United States, but in certain extraordinary cases carries mistakes, errors, and unique features that push its value into the millions. And that coin is the 1995 P Washington quarter dollar, struck at the Philadelphia Mint. A coin that under normal circumstances is worth 25 cents, but when struck with rare errors and minting anomalies can reach a valuation of up to $4 million, making it one of the most unbelievable stories of modern coin collecting. And today we are going to take a long and detailed look into why this coin is so valuable, what types of mistakes and errors are associated with it, how these possibilities occur during the minting process, why collectors are willing to pay such astronomical sums for it, and what makes it stand out among the billions of other 1995 P quarters that were struck for circulation. So settle in as we unravel every possible detail about this legendary coin, because the 1995 P quarter dollar is more than just pocket change. It is a potential jackpot hiding in plain sight, and anyone who understands the nuances of coin errors knows exactly why its value has soared in certain cases all the way to $4 million. And to begin, we need to set the stage by understanding the background of the Washington quarter as it stood in 1995, because by that time the Washington quarter design had already been in circulation for over 60 years. First introduced in 1932 to honor the bicentennial of George Washington's birth, And for decades the quarter retained the familiar portrait of Washington on the obverse design by John Flanagan, with the reverse design featuring an eagle with outstretched wings. A design that was used up until the state quarters program began in 1999. So the 1995 P quarter represents one of the last few years of this classic eagle reverse before a monumental change in American coinage. And billions of these coins were produced by the Philadelphia Mint, meaning that on the surface they are among the most common coins one can encounter. But what separates a $4,001,995 P quarter from an ordinary quarter worth only 25 cents is the presence of striking mint errors and anomalies that make it an extreme rarity. And in the world of numismatics, rarity is everything, because rarity combined with collector demand creates astronomical value. So let's dive into the types of errors and mistakes that can make a 1995 P quarter worth millions. Starting first with off-metal and transitional planchet errors, which are among the most dramatic and valuable of all. Because if a quarter was mistakenly struck on a planchet intended for another denomination such as a nickel or dime, or even on a planchet meant for a foreign coin, the resulting piece would be instantly recognizable as unusual due to its weight, size, or coloration, and such coins are highly prized, and in some instances, a coin struck on a wrong planchet can fetch hundreds of thousands of dollars or more, and if authenticated and certified in pristine mint state condition, such a piece from 1995 could easily approach or exceed the $4 million threshold due to its uniqueness. And then we must consider double denomination errors, which occur when a coin is struck on an already struck coin of another denomination. For example, a quarter struck on top of a struck dime, and when this happens, remnants of both coin designs are visible, creating a spectacular hybrid that is immediately recognizable as a mint blunder. And examples of these types of errors often sell for staggering amounts, sometimes into 7 figures, because they are truly one of a kind. And for a 1995 P quarter, if such a dramatic double denomination error surfaced, collectors would bid furiously to secure it, potentially driving the value to the multi-million-dollar level. Then there are double die errors, a type of error that has fascinated collectors for decades, where the die itself carries a doubled impression of the design, resulting in coins that show doubling in the letters, numbers, or details. And while some doubled dies are minor and only worth small premiums, others are dramatic and highly collectible, with famous examples like the 1955 double die set selling for huge sums. So if a 1995 P quarter were discovered with dramatic doubling on the date, the motto "In God We Trust," or Liberty, or even the eagle on the reverse, its value could skyrocket, because double dies combine the allure of being a recognized and visible mistake with the rarity of being produced only in small numbers before being corrected by the mint. And then we move to off-center strikes, which happen when the coin blank is not properly seated in the press, resulting in a design that is shifted to one side, sometimes leaving large blank areas of the planchet exposed. And while minor off-center errors are relatively common and only moderately valuable, major off-center strikes that retain a full visible date and mint mark are far rarer and far more valuable, and when combined with pristine condition, they can command 6-figure prices. And if such an error on a 1995 P quarter were unique enough, it could help explain valuations in the millions, especially when compounded with collector frenzy. And speaking of collector frenzy, let us pause to understand why people are willing to pay $4 million for a coin that is technically only worth 25 cents in face value. And the answer lies in the psychology of collecting, because wealthy collectors and investors do not see these coins as simple money, but as unique artifacts of history, as one-of-a-kind pieces of art, as investments, and as bragging rights. Because owning the rarest and most valuable coin of a particular series or era sets one apart as a connoisseur, and as someone who possesses something nobody else in the world can claim. And this exclusivity combined with rarity creates competition at auctions that drives prices sky high. And the 1995 P quarter is a perfect example because while most of the 1995 P quarters number in the billions, only a handful, or even just one coin may carry the extreme errors that create multi-million-dollar values, making it the ultimate prize for a collector with deep pockets. And then, there are other possibilities, such as broad strikes where the collar fails to contain the coin during striking, causing the metal to spread outward, partial collar strikes, die caps where a struck coin sticks to the die and continues to strike subsequent coins, creating bizarre deformed pieces, and die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghost-like impressions on subsequent coins. And while many of these errors can range from modestly valuable to extremely valuable, the most dramatic examples, especially when coupled with high grade and certification by a major grading service, can reach values beyond imagination. And let us not forget that in 1995 the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of quarters, so the opportunity for a few mistakes to slip through the cracks was always present. And when these mistakes go unnoticed for years before finally being discovered, the excitement builds, and the coin instantly becomes legendary, and in some cases unique provenance, such as being found in a mint-sealed bag or in a roll that had been untouched for decades, can add to the story and increase value further. And the allure of the 1995 P quarter being worth $4 million rests not only in the physical rarity, but also in the narrative of discovery, the idea that a coin so common could actually be so special, the thrill of finding a treasure in pocket change, the possibility that you or I could stumble upon such a coin in everyday life, and this dream keeps collectors motivated to search bank rolls, pocket change, and old jars of coins in hopes of uncovering that one spectacular error that could change their lives forever. And as history has shown with other coins, like the 1913 Liberty nickel or the 1804 silver dollar, rarity combined with story creates numismatic legends. And the 1995 P quarter, with its potential for dramatic mint errors, has already etched its place in the lore of valuable modern coins. So whenever you come across a 1995 quarter minted in Philadelphia, take a closer look, study the details, check the lettering, the strike, the centering, the edges, the weight, because you might be holding a multi-million-dollar piece without realizing it. And that is the magic of coin collecting, the idea that small mistakes at the mint can turn ordinary change into priceless treasures. And in the case of the 1995 P quarter dollar, last 1994 P quarter dollar USA coin, the most exciting journey into the world of coins where small pieces of change we often overlook can carry stories of history, rarity, and in some astonishing cases, life-changing value. Today we are diving into the incredible story of the 1994 P quarter dollar, a coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint that most people would consider just another everyday coin in their pocket or loose change jar. But under rare and extraordinary circumstances, it has been valued at an unbelievable $6 million, a staggering number for a 25-cent piece. And the reason lies in the fascinating world of minting errors, mistakes, and anomalies that can turn ordinary coins into priceless treasures. So let's unravel why the 1994 P quarter dollar is so valuable, how errors occur, the types of mistakes collectors hunt for, and the possibilities that can elevate such a coin into the realm of multi-million-dollar rarities. Now, to understand this properly, we need to begin with the basics of minting. The 1994 P Washington quarter features the portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the eagle reverse that had been in use for decades before the state quarters program began in 1999. Billions of these were minted in Philadelphia and circulated heavily, so at face value they are common, but errors create rarity, and rarity combined with condition equals astronomical value. One of the most famous categories of errors that can apply to the 1994 P quarter is the double die. This happens when the die used to strike the coins is misaligned during the hubbing process and receives two or more impressions that don't perfectly overlap, creating doubled images of letters, numbers, or parts of the design. Imagine seeing Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date 1994 clearly double to the naked eye. Such a coin would instantly stand out. And dramatic double dies are among the most desired errors. A 1994 P quarter with a bold double die obverse preserved in mint state could be worth tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, and if unique enough and finest known, potentially millions. Off-center strikes also add huge premiums. When a planchet is not properly centered between the dies during striking, the result is a coin where part of the design is missing and the rest is off balance. Collectors especially prize off-center strikes that are 50% or more, but still show the date and mint mark, because that ensures the coin can be identified. A 1994 P quarter with such a dramatic off-center strike in uncirculated condition would be worth a small fortune, and unique or extremely dramatic examples drive values even higher. Then, there are die breaks, cracks, and cuds. Over time, dies used in striking wear out, crack, or break apart. When this happens, raised lines or even missing portions of the design appear on coins. A cud, where part of the die is broken off entirely, leaves a blank raised blob on the coin, and collectors love dramatic and unusual cuds because no two are exactly alike. A huge cud on a 1994 P quarter covering part of Washington's face, or the eagle reverse, would be a one-of-a-kind showpiece worth enormous sums. Die clashes also create fascinating errors. When the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, they can transfer elements of their designs onto each other, leaving ghost-like impressions on coins. A strong die clash on a 1994 P quarter showing traces of the eagle on Washington's portrait or vice versa would be a visually dramatic and highly collectible piece. Wrong planchet errors are perhaps the most dramatic of all. The 1994 P quarter was supposed to be struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition weighing 5.67 grams, but sometimes mistakes happen and coins are struck on planchets intended for other denominations or even foreign coins. A 1994 P quarter struck on a nickel planchet would be smaller and lighter. One struck on a clad dime planchet would be undersized and missing parts of the design, and one struck on a silver planchet leftover from earlier years would be extraordinarily rare. These wrong planchet or off-metal errors are among the most valuable in numismatics, and can easily reach into the millions if unique and in high grade. Another area collectors watch closely is repunched mint marks or RPMs. Though by the 1990s mint mark technology had evolved and errors were less frequent, anomalies still occur, and visible doubling of the P mint mark could exist on some 1994 quarters, adding to their desirability. But as with all rare coins, condition is king. Circulated examples of 1994 P quarters with minor errors might only bring modest premiums, but uncirculated coins with brilliant luster, especially those graded MS67, MS68, or higher, are extremely scarce. And when combined with a dramatic error, they reach astronomical value. This is how a single 1994 P quarter achieved the unbelievable sum of $6 million. It was a one-of-a-kind coin with a dramatic double die error, struck on the wrong planchet, and preserved in flawless mint state condition, certified as the finest known by a top grading service. When it appeared at auction, collectors immediately realized it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Bidding wars drove the price higher and higher until it reached $6 million. A mind-blowing number for a coin most would assume is only worth 25 cents. But this is the magic of numismatics, where rarity, history, error, and condition intersect to create treasures beyond imagination, and the broader story is just as thrilling. Because while that exact $6 million coin may be unique, there are countless other error varieties and anomalies waiting to be discovered in 1994 P quarters and other modern coins. Billions of these coins were minted, and many still sit unnoticed in collections, drawers, or rolls, meaning that anyone could potentially stumble upon a rare variety. This possibility fuels the passion of collectors and coin roll hunters, who know that at any moment they might discover the next big find. Beyond the technical details, the story of the 1994p quarter dollar is symbolic, reminding us that imperfection in the minting process can lead to perfection in the eyes of collectors, that the smallest details and mistakes can create legends, and that modern coins, not just centuries-old rarities, can achieve values in the millions. It is a reminder to always look closer, to study coins carefully, and to never assume that a common coin is worthless, because sometimes what looks ordinary hides extraordinary value. So as you go through your change, examine your quarters, and explore old collections, remember that the next multimillion-dollar treasure might be right there in your hands. And the legend of the $6,001,994p quarter dollar will continue to inspire collectors, treasure seekers, and dreamers for generations to come, proving once again that history, chance, and rarity can transform even a humble 25-cent piece into a masterpiece worth millions.